Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Luke Tannen, Executive Director of Chicago Innovation, and I want to welcome all of you to our first ever virtual Chicago Innovation event, Innovation is Survival. We've been around for 19 years. This is virtual event number one, and I know we are not alone in embarking on a lot of firsts these days. So it's a real quick personal example. My wife of 12 years, last night, first time ever, she cut my hair. And as you can see, not so bad. So, doing things for the first time, not so scary. Obviously, that's a little bit of a sillier, more personal example, but there's a lot more significant examples of entire companies doing things for the first time, embracing new technologies, new business models, incorporating brand new perspectives that they've never thought of before, really as we all try to navigate this new climate together. So we've put together this event today because we believe that the most powerful tool to survive through challenging times really is innovation. And we have a spectacular group of speakers today. They're perfect examples of how to use innovation as a tool to meet the changing needs of businesses, of individuals, and of communities. Now, I want to let everyone know that if you have a question for the panel, please send us your questions via the Zoom Q&A. If the panel isn't able to get to your questions during the time we have, then someone from our team will try to follow up with you after the event. Before we continue on, I want to first recognize and thank all of our wonderful, incredible sponsors who've supported us for a long time now, starting with our founding diamond sponsor, Theron Technology Solutions, as well as our other diamond sponsors, SMS Assist, Accenture, and Wintrust. Our gold sponsors, Comcast Business and Exelon. Silver sponsor, Vetter Price. Bronze sponsors, Thomson Coburn, Energy BBDO, Crown Castle, and Granger. And our media partners, WBBM News Radio, Cranes, Chicago Business, NBC, Chicago, Clear Channel Outdoor, and Intersection. And now what I'd like to do is hand it off to the co-founder of Chicago Innovation, who's also the president of Kuzmarski Innovation. Please welcome Tom Kuzmarski.
Hi, Luke. Hi, everybody. Hey, yeah, I heard that 300 people registered for this event today, and we sure all miss you all, but want you to stay safe and well, and remember that you're the valued members of our Chicago innovation community. You know, I've really been inspired over the past few weeks, seeing the amazing work that innovators have been doing to help this current situation. I published an op-ed last week in the Chicago Tribune entitled "The Key to Beating the Coronavirus, Innovation." And it really addressed the three key problems of flattening the curve, reopening the economy, and developing and disseminating a vaccine, all of which innovators are really able to achieve. We've also seen companies like Abbott quickly develop the 5-minute test, Sitter City and QB offering new offerings for free, Horizon and Cameo raising dollars to combat the crisis. And today we have 3 amazing panelists from Fast Radius, Rheaply, and Koval who have quickly innovated and developed some amazing new ideas and concepts that they've already put into practice. You know, this resilience, determination, and collaboration is what we recognize and value in innovators, not only in Chicago, but throughout the country and the world. And I wanted to let you know that just 2 weeks ago, our most recent book called Rising Together, The Story of Chicago's Innovation Ecosystem, has just come out. And it really tells a great story over the past 20 years of how Chicago has become a real hub of innovation and entrepreneurship. Well, we hope today's discussion will equip you with some insights as we move together through these challenging times. And it is my extreme pleasure now to introduce today's moderator, the president and co-CEO of tastytrade, and also a 2-time Chicago Innovation Award winner, a Chicago Innovation Board member, former co-host of the Chicago Innovation Awards, and just a great friend, Kristi Ross.
Thank you so much, Tom, and thank you, Luke. Such an honor to be part of Chicago Innovation's first virtual event. I love that. So thank you for thinking of me and having me be part of it. So equally excited to be here with 3 amazing individuals who exemplify the entrepreneurial spirit and innovative mindset, especially in these unprecedented times. So I'd like to introduce our panelists. Lou Rassey is the CEO of Fast Radius, one of the world's leading additive manufacturing companies and a 2019 Chicago Innovation Award winner. Welcome, Lou. And then we also have Sonat Birnecker Hart, who is the president and owner of Koval Distillery, an award-winning producer of organic whiskey and specialty spirits. I was lucky enough to just interview her here about an hour ago on Bootstrapping in America, so nice to see you again. I counted on her website, she has 74 awards over the 12 years, so pretty impressive. We got quite a crew here. And then we also have Garry Cooper, who is the CEO and co-founder of Rheaply, which is an asset exchange system creating a shared economy between research institutions, Fortune 500 companies, startups, school systems, and everyone in between. I'm going to start with a positive note. Wherever there are setbacks, there are also reasons to be optimistic. And I am absolutely positively a glass half full kind of person. So I'm going to start out with, can each of you tell us one thing that you are optimistic about for the future? And so actually, Lou, why don't I start with you?
Thanks very much, Kristi. It's great to be with everyone here. I think what has been demonstrated in the past few weeks is the ability to innovate at a speed and an impact that we may have thought was not possible before. We have worked with companies to design and manufacture and distribute products that are entirely new to the world in a matter of days or weeks to meet the challenge of the public health crisis. And I think as we reflect on the ability to innovate at that speed and with that impact, I think that gives all of us great cause for excitement.
Yeah, I totally agree. Garry, how about you? What do you think is optimistic for the future?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kristi. I'm optimistic about a lot of things. I think one that I'm most optimistic about is community. I think in order to meet big challenges and big, hairy problems, you need everybody. And I think one of the things that's been highlighted in this unfortunate outbreak is how we all are tied to each other, small and big players, and how we need everyone to contribute to meet global challenges. So I'm excited about the future as a more global community.
Yeah, the power behind community is amazing, right? And so Sonat, how about you?
You know, I feel very similar to what Garry just said. You know, community is something I've noticed come through a lot during this time period, but what I'm hoping is that also in addition to community, that we are learning to spread kindness. And I hope that that becomes a habit because I see it happening a lot. And I think that if we get used to this, maybe we'll all come out much better people.
I like that, kindness as a habit. That's a good one. So the next question I'm gonna do is kind of a two-part question. So each of you have responded to the pandemic crisis quickly, tactically, and confidently. Can you briefly explain the pivot that you made with your company and take us behind the scenes of the decision-making process? And so Garry, why don't we start this one with you?
Sure, I'm happy to kind of describe the behind the scenes. So basically, Rheaply, as you set out in the opening, Kristi, Rheaply helps organizations better use the material that they've already procured through kind of an easy to use kind of asset management platform. And then we connect other organizations to kind of share those materials if the organization can no longer use them. So we were in some ways in a kind of driver's seat position to kind of help the supply chain breakdown problem that has happened because of COVID, right? We've all seen the unfortunate pictures of nurses and doctors wearing trash bags. When you've gotten to that area, you've realized that there's been a massive breakdown in a supply chain. So what my team actually brought to me about at the very end of February was this idea around kind of taking our technology, our flagship technology, stripping down some of its parts and making it so that doctors, veterinarians, dentists, research laboratory, anyone who might have supplies who could donate and or sell it to people on the clinical front lines, that we could filter those requests and those items to those folks. And then with Northwestern, one of the really cool things that we've done with them is be able to harvest all of that kind of marketplace data and then put that into a publicly available map so that you can push on a county in the state of Illinois and see the real-time supply to needs of healthcare workers in that county. And so the behind the scenes really was us stopping what we were doing in our traditional business, if I'm being quite transparent, and really focusing for 3.5 weeks on this issue. And I couldn't be more proud of what we've been able to produce, especially with all the partners that we've been able to bring in on this kind of incredible lift. So it's been a lot of meetings, a lot of pulling the hair along, a lot of long nights, but we know that there are other people spending a lot more long nights and less safer places than we are in our homes. And so we're happy that people are getting some good use out of it.
It's like those first few weeks of your startup right before you launch, right?
Yes.
Like
There's so many ideas. There's
no
so many
problem.
ideas. Should we go this far? Should we go this far? And no one's ever done this, right? It's just exactly like a startup, right? So you're at the beginning, but you're in a crisis, right? Where people need something. So it's a bit of more of a trade-off than we probably would normally have when we're kind of releasing a product. But no, we're super excited about helping the people on the front lines, and it's all for free. It's all pro bono. So hopefully people can make good use of it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you so much, Garry. So Sonat, how about you? Let's talk a little bit about that pivot and then the behind the scenes of the decision-making process.
Absolutely. I mean, we knew very early on that we had the right tools to make one of the things that was said to be most needed, which was hand sanitizer. I mean, we have a big still, but we had a big roadblock, which was that we were not legally allowed to make hand sanitizer. So the first thing that needed to be done, and this was also a group effort from distillers all across America, we reached out to our trade organization, Discus, and we reached out to the federal government, and they actually lifted the regulations, and we are now all allowed to make this much needed tool in this fight against COVID. So we had to become legal first. So once we were legal, and even in advance of being legal, we looked into what we could do to get the ball rolling. Who are our suppliers that we needed to reach out to get various equipment? Who are new suppliers that we've never reached out to, so that we could have what we needed in our factory ready to go. So we had things pretty much laid out. I mean, for us, there was no question about, should we do this? Because, I mean, we knew there was such a need. We saw it happening in Europe with our colleagues abroad in the liquor industry there. So we sort of saw what was coming. And it was more just a desire to, at first, just make a number of batches of this and donate it to those in need. But it rapidly developed into much, much more than that.
So one of the things is when you look at that, the thing I want to highlight there is it's important that government plays a role in this. And they don't always move quickly, but in this case, they were able to actually, push something through faster, which I think is amazing. So Lou, share with us what pivot you made and what the behind the scenes decision-making was like.
Sure. So Fast Radius is a manufacturing technology company. We help our customers across industries design, make, and fulfill products using the latest in manufacturing technologies, including additive manufacturing or 3D printing. We have a factory in the heart of Chicago, as well as one in Louisville on UPS's North America hub. And so the normal course of our business is to work with companies who need to develop and launch new products. What we found ourselves over the course of the past couple of months is a world where medical devices are in short supply, and there is a need to rapidly design and manufacture new devices to meet the market need and the health crisis. So we mobilized our engineering team and our manufacturing assets, our factory capacity, to scale up the design and validation, and ultimately now the fabrication and distribution of products. We've made tens of thousands of face shields and distributed them around the country and around the world. We're ramping up production of swabs. We have open sourced a design of masks and a number of other products in support of the medical device supply challenge.
So I did read that swabs right now are probably one of the hotter things as well. That isn't that the newer one that has come up in the supply, or lack of supply, I should say, in the testing.
That's right. As we look forward in this process, as we all want to return to work and return to play and to return to some sense of normalcy, testing is going to be a critical gating factor. And to get the tests done, you need to have the swabs that can support those tests.
Exactly.
And that is something that's in really short supply now. And so working with a number of partners on the material side, on the equipment side, on the distribution side, there's been a fast track of an additively manufactured swab that is produced on Carbon's manufacturing equipment that can be used to support the challenge here.
Wow. So it's amazing, all three of you, how you have truly just pivoted your businesses. I'm curious, has this crisis changed your view of the role of innovation in your business at all? And Lou, I'll stay on with you for this one.
I think for us, it really amplifies the thesis of our company and what it is we're building, which is a platform for innovation in the physical world. And I think as we, as a team, step back for a second and reflect on the work that we're doing now, it is squarely aligned with what our business is about. We recognize the importance of making things, not just for the things, the physical objects, but for what they make possible in the world. We don't just make cars and cell phones and satellites, but we make the world more connected. We feed and we power the world with the things that we make. And now we're making new medical devices that can help make the world healthy and safe again. That is our mission, that is our purpose. And so we are humbled that we are able to contribute our resources and talent to the cause here.
Addressing real needs, that is for sure. So Sonat, how about you? Has your view of the role of innovation in your business changed at all?
I mean, we've relied on innovation from the very beginning. We wouldn't be able to compete against really large companies. I mean, we don't have those marketing budgets. And so we have to be nimble. We have to innovate. We have to be quick. That's something we've done from the very beginning with our spirits for consumption, in that, you know, we used a new approach. We made products only using the heart cut of the distillate. We used alternative grains, but we also innovated on the business side, as we're probably one of very, very few distilleries, and certainly probably the only craft distillery in the United States that is its own importer into Europe. So we also have our own warehouse abroad. We deal with all the business ourselves. And in fact, at Koval, we pretty much do everything ourselves, including all the programming. We don't outsource it to other software companies. We write it all. We write our whole back end. We do everything ourselves. So with that in mind, it gave us an opportunity to, you know, just go back to this challenge with that same mindset and say, okay, how are we going to pivot? And what do we need to do to get it done? But we're not afraid to do things ourselves. So it's part of just who we are.
I love that. I love that. And Garry, I'm coming back to you. So what about the role? How do you view the role of innovation in your company? Has this changed your view?
Like Lou, it's amplified, and Sonat amplified what we were already thinking. I think one of the things that we've learned is that sometimes good is perfect. So, you know, getting things out into the market that can help people that might not be what you would have done over a year of planning or half a year of planning and SWOT analyzing, is sometimes the thing that needs, right? Because getting it out in the market, having people respond to it, see how people are using it, and then iterating that way is actually better than a full long kind of project plan or product plan period. So I think one of the things it's taught us is to shorten kind of our iterative cycles, and to just get things out in the market that can really help people and see how it's helping people and double down on those efforts.
Yeah, better done than perfect, right?
Right,
That is one of those things that true, you know, innovation and entrepreneurship, and it's those iterations. So Garry, I'm going to stay with you. So how do you prioritize your long-term needs of your business, right? You've said you took, you know, 3.5 weeks and you just sort of really completely changed focus. So how do you actually balance the immediate needs of the community versus your long-term aspects of your, or long-term needs of your business?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, especially as a startup and especially as a really small business. I mean, everyone's being very conscious of burn and where they're spending dollars and spending their time as a surrogate to dollars. The way that we kind of thought about it is we live by our values at Rheaply. One of our corporate values is that we're stewards of our community. Another is that to be helpful. Both of those call into us being active and where we can be. And I think for me, from like a behind the scenes financial analysis perspective, I really thought about what could we do in 30 days? Like what can we accomplish in 30 days? How much does that cost us in order to help a situation that we think that we are uniquely positioned to do so? So that was kind of the way I thought about it, is it's a part of our core values, what we actually believe in, every single person at Rheaply. And then I thought about, like, what if we used a month of full energy towards this problem? What would that mean for the community writ large? And what would that mean for Rheaply? And after we kind of did that kind of analysis, we were all in.
That's awesome. So I'm going to ask Lou this same question. How do you balance the immediate needs of the community versus looking long-term at your company?
I think it's an ongoing conversation for us as a team and as a company. I think in the very near term, there was a clear line of sight for us to help an urgent public health crisis, and driven by our values similar to Garry. We wanted to find a way to put all of our energy and resources into doing that. I think in parallel with that, we are thinking about the choices we make to serve our other customers. They're also having a hard time, and many of them also still want to bring new products to market and find innovative ways to continue doing that even in this new business environment. And so we need to make sure that we're also spending time with those customers through the storm here, so that we can be with them when they come out the other side. I think that's the second part of the conversation we've had as a team. And then the third is, I think, reprioritizing the investments that we're making for longer term growth, and really paring back some of our expenses and discretionary spend, so that we're focused on those first two pieces of the public health crisis and meeting that need in a responsible way, supporting our customers through the storm, but then being having a bit of a finer filter on some of the investments, but still making sure we're making those investments. Our software platform, as an example, is such an important part to how we serve our customers, and we have a very aggressive roadmap for our software platform. We're still investing there and arguably doubling down more as we're addressing some of the near-term needs. And so it's not it's a portfolio that we keep in balance and talk about regularly.
Yeah, it's a delicate balance, right? It's a delicate balance of trying to figure out the right priorities, but it definitely puts it in perspective. Things that maybe were on your list before, you now go, not so important, right? So,
sure.
So Sonat, how about you? How are you looking at prioritizing long-term, the long-term needs of your business versus these immediate needs for the community?
Well, I feel that the immediate needs were very obvious to us, and that became a focus in the beginning for sure, where we donated as much as we could at first, and then we realized that there was such a need for more donations and we couldn't do it all ourselves, that then we had another iteration where we started a GoFundMe page and had people all over the world helping us donate even more. So then we started to also work with other foundations and organizations to donate more, because they would then help us, and they would buy product and then donate it to, you know, the various organizations that they help. So we've had already many different sort of iterations with this, but now also, you know, we've had businesses reach out to us, and we've engaged now in a lot of business to business sales of hand sanitizer, because there are other people who need to be safe at work and they need to keep their hands clean. I mean, we have been working with many people who deliver your food. We've been working with the people who keep your gas on. We've been working with all these people, the people that have, put your toilet paper on a train car to get it to wherever it needs to go. I mean, these are people who are working every day, and they reach out to us because they can't find it anywhere else. And so we feel that we're serving, even in our sales, we're serving the needs of other businesses. So it's businesses helping other businesses stay afloat, which I think is really lovely. And it's nice, that we're able to be in that. But on the other side of things, we did have another business before this all happened, and we need to, honor all of those relationships and make sure that we do not, leave them in the lurch when they need whiskey or gin. So really, it's a huge undertaking for my team and for everybody. I know that everyone's working a lot of extra time to accommodate both. And how this will grow and develop over time, I think really depends on the situation. If we're able to scale back on the hand sanitizer, then we will, and then we'll make more whiskey, because at the moment now, we're selling the whiskey that we made 4 years ago, but there are many opportunity costs to us producing a product that's needed in the moment, because interestingly enough, we need to usually produce products in the moment that are needed in the future. So because we have this whole aging situation involved in a lot of our products. So these are all things that we have to consider. But I think, while there's a need and while people require what we are able to make, we will make it.
So I have to ask this, because as you go through this and you've created hand sanitizer successfully, do you have thoughts about maybe having this be a business line eventually down the road? Like, could this actually be a change to your business? You do whiskey over here, you do gin over here, but then maybe you have a distillery that's doing, hand sanitizer. Have you guys already talked about that, or is that just, to be talked about later?
We are so federally regulated that I don't think anything could happen unless the federal government and the state government allow it to happen. Mm-hmm. Right now, we've been given a allowance, so to speak, to produce hand sanitizer through 2020, and that could go away. And if it goes away, I hope it goes away without there being any need for it, and then we can all go back to whiskey and gin, which would be great, Spritzer's time. But right now, I mean, we have to sort of see what happens day by day.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And the being highly regulated does put some, does obviously put some restrictions on. So, so Lou, how about you? Do you see that some of these changes that you've made, that anything will be something that maybe sticks with your business for the future?
I think it's a similar perspective as Sonat, is we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
I think we have been working with medical device companies prior to the COVID crisis. And I think there's opportunity for us to do more in medical devices for sure, in partnership with our customers. So I think it does accelerate the work that we're doing in that sector in a way that we get excited, but the specifics will take some time to play out.
Totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. And Garry, I got to ask you too. Okay, so do you see any of these changes that really would become long-term for you?
Yeah, I mean, so our thesis about global supply chain is that in the moment, we've been tracking it from a climate crisis, but that in the moment of a crisis, linear supply chains are going to be out the window. Mm-hmm. And we're, as a global community, going to have to be able to mobilize and limited supply to a certain area. And so this platform helps us get there. I think, so it'll be instantiated for as long as I'm running the company. I think the broader question for us is, how much more development do we do to it? As I mentioned in the opening, we did it completely pro bono. And as a small business, continue to do more development on it does cost us something. And so we've looked at some potential government stakeholders who might be interested in the technology, but generally speaking, no, it's something that we hope will be a help for the next unfortunate time that something like this occurs.
Yeah, Garry, if I could add to that message, I think Fastradius is part of a World Economic Forum community of manufacturing companies around the world called the Lighthouse Network. These are companies that are implementing Industry 4.0 technologies at real scale. And this community has come together through the crisis with regular conversations, connected globally just about every day, looking to share ideas about what's working in certain geographies with certain technologies across each of the different products that are in need. And I think those coordinating mechanisms, they haven't existed. And so I think there is real value, as both you and Sonat commented at the beginning, of the sense of the community coming together and finding new ways of helping, sharing information, sharing ideas, and accelerating response. And so I think there's a lot that will be learned as we go through the crisis here.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So, Lou, I want to ask you something about leadership. And when you look at this crisis, has it taught you anything different about leadership that maybe you didn't look at it the same way before?
I think it perhaps speaks to the leader within all of us that has been inspiring to see every one of our team members wanting to stand up and lead in their way, and doing everything in their ability to contribute, whether it's developers on our software team, the folks that are working in our factory every day in these circumstances, to the folks on our sales team making phone calls and connecting hospitals, and to a person, they're leading in a way that is inspiring. And I think the way that we've locked arms as a company and with our supply partners, with our customers, and with the health community at large has just been inspiring. It's not a traditional single leader effect here that is creating this kind of impact, but it is the contributions of every individual, and seeing that has been really inspiring and something I'm sure we'll all keep with us.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Gary, how about you? Would you say that this crisis has taught you something different about leadership, or do you have a different perspective on it?
I have an additional one. And maybe I've always had it, but it's come to the fore, which is the sense of gratitude. I think, you know, I'm safely in my home right now speaking to you and to everyone on the call. And my team is working remotely on these issues. How grateful we are to have that opportunity to be healthy and to be able to contribute. And I think that calls your arms to be a leader in this situation and to help in any way that you possibly can. So it's not about getting recognition, it's just about doing, because we're in a position where we can, and being grateful for that ability to do so. So that's one of the things that I think has been highlighted in this situation, is a sense of gratitude.
That's
as a leader.
Great. Yeah, for sure. So I love everybody's a leader, and the sense of gratitude for sure. Sonat, how about you?
I mean, I agree with everything that Lou and Gary have said. I think that being a leader is being a servant. And if you serve very well, you lead very well. And I think that I've seen that, and similar to what Lou was saying, I've seen that from everyone on my team. But I also think, one other thing is that, in this crisis, as the people who run the company, I think that we've had to, my husband and I, whether, 2 a.m. conversations, how do we make this better? How do we make this easier? How do we improve our systems? And I can say just this process has happened very quickly, but it has been this constant pushing ahead, not sort of, saying, oh, okay, like it's the pushing ahead that I think has also really helped our company and helped everybody lead in their own way more efficiently. So that's something that I've noticed just in what we are doing, and how relieved I feel that we put in all this extra work, because I see the results of what that does for the whole team.
Right. In communication, I think it just highlights too the communication, how important that really is for all of your team members. Because in uncertain times, you know, there are a lot of people that are not comfortable in that. Entrepreneurs seem to be okay and comfortable being uncomfortable, but not all of your employees are. So that communication and added, you know, care towards them, I think sometimes really goes a long way as well. So the next one, and I know I'm not going to be able to get around to all three of you. I've tried to do that throughout the program, but I just want to make sure we're going to be able to get to a lot of the questions in the audience as well. But I do have a few more questions I'm going to try to throw out. And so Sonat, I'm actually going to throw this one back to you. What advice would you give to entrepreneurs or business leaders who know they need to make a quick and decisive change, but don't really know like where to start?
Well, I think starting anywhere gets you somewhere. So I feel that that would be what I would say. I mean, I feel that there's always a way to think about how to do something maybe differently, maybe better. You know, I remember in our early days of our business, and I feel like these are early days again in some sort of warped way, but we, you know, didn't have enough money to do what we wanted to do. And so we sort of insourced. We're like, well, what else could we offer to try and, you know, earn other revenue streams? And so, you know, we did everything from creating websites to translating things from German into English to becoming a manufacturer's representative. And what I've learned from all of that, which is certainly helpful for right now, is that the more you do and you put yourself out there, the more you learn, and the more opportunities there are. And I saw that, you know, with the Koval business of distilled spirits for consumption, but I see that also for, you know, making hand sanitizer, you know, figuring out other ways to engage and other things to do, and integrate. Just keeping your ears and your eyes open will help you do more.
For sure. So it's so Garry, I'm going to ask you this next question. How are you thinking about getting teams physically back to work, or maybe better said, what do you think those next steps are, when appropriate, to stage into the new normal?
That's a great question, and it's one that's kept me up a lot. I'm sure the other people on this call can imagine.
I think all of us.
Yes. So I think one thing is we want to do it legally right. So when the state of Illinois has lifted its current shelter in place, that'll be about a time where we start considering it. I think for me, it will definitely be a team decision about what that transition process looks like, as opposed to me just say, hey, everyone come to work on Monday. There are some people in the business who are itching to get out of their house and itching to get back to the office because we love working together. There are others who are more, have a lot more anxiety about their travel to work and interacting with folks on the train or on the bus and their commute, that might expose them to kind of the after effects or the kind of second phase of the outbreak. So I think it will be a team collective decision, but it will be in keeping with what the CDC is suggesting and what the state of Illinois is legally authorizing. But it's a for sure evolving framework, because I've never had to think about when to let people back to work or not. So we are currently making that decisions together, but it's something that will evolve, I'm sure.
I think it's the $1 million question, right? I think it's going to be different for every single company. What I think there has been is this work from home stigma of, some companies are great with work from home, but there are other ones that are like, you know, people aren't really working from home. Well, I think people have found out that some people are incredibly productive working from home. And sometimes it is that personality, that extrovert versus the introvert versus, you know, all of that. So it sort of has, for our company, it's forced us to sort of look at individuals and how well they work. But here, so Lou, I want to turn it over to you. I want to ask you what you think the new normal looks like? And again, I know it's going to be different for every company. I think this is like the $2 million question. But what do you think the new normal looks like?
New normal for the working in office, work from home.
Well, yeah, and in general, right? I think just when you look at business, what does the new normal look like?
I think in the world of manufacturing, there will be a new normal that embraces flexibility and responsiveness of supply chains in a way that has been talked about for a while, but has not been fully embraced. I think it presents companies to think differently about their global footprints and producing closer to home, closer to where demand is. That also means you need to have the design and innovation muscles that can leverage that footprint. And so I think it opens up a lot of strategic questions for manufacturing companies. I think fortunately we're in a world where there are amazing new tools in this digital age to allow companies to build new supply chains and new manufacturing models that can dramatically accelerate the pace of innovation and much more efficiently and sustainably make products where they're needed around the world. Whether that's additive manufacturing, new tools of digital design, or at Fast Radius, we have a vision for something we call the fourth modality of logistics, and that is throughout human history, we move parts three ways: by ground, by air, and by sea. Now we have a fourth mode of transport, which is moving parts through the internet at the speed of light and producing them where you need them around the world. That will be a new normal. There is no question over the coming decades that the fourth modality of logistics will have a profound impact on how global supply chains work. We're not there yet, but we see that on the horizon, and we think that the challenging time that we're going through now reinforces the importance of creating those new structures and that new normal.
Yeah, totally agree. I think that's a great way to say it. So I'm going to go around the horn with each one of you, and then we'll take questions from the audience. This one is really something like probably a little bit more personal. What is one resource that you'd recommend that those listening today should check out? Maybe it's a book or a podcast that inspires you, a TV show that maybe sharpened your perspective on something, or maybe an activity that just simply calms your mind. So let's see, Garry, why don't I start with you?
Yeah, I was like actually thinking of like 8,000 things. So I'm trying to center on one. I'm a weird guy, so I've never, ever done yoga, like ever. And I downloaded this app that is like a 20-minute yoga thing in the morning, and I've been trying that, and that's been pretty good. I've been journaling a lot more than I normally do. It's just kind of writing down thoughts, emotions, reactions, reflections onto paper, and just kind of filtering that out at the end of the day. But I know lots of people are very busy, so it's hard to kind of adopt new tools and projects when you're already pivoting your business or refocusing your business on something else. So I try to do like this little 20-minute thing in the morning with yoga, and I've been doing some more journaling.
What is it called? What's the yoga app?
It's called Daily OM. It's like the letter O and M. It's like 21 minutes of yoga each morning.
I love that. And the journaling, so you go through, you write something down during the day and you go through it the next day or that night?
Like the weekend, I'll go through the week and kind of just do like a weekly recap of like how was I actually feeling that week, as opposed to how I felt on the weekend about the week.
Yeah.
And then just trying to reflect, because obviously, and we talked a little bit about with leadership, sometimes you're not sure of how you're projecting. And I think if you can kind of like have an objective reflection back on yourself, you can kind of hopefully cartel the message that you're trying to give out in the world. So yeah, those are some of the simple tools, but
I like that.
as I said, I've never done yoga, so it's kind of a big thing for me.
It would be for me too. I'm not a yoga person either, but I'll try it. Okay, let's see. Lou, how about you?
I think there's one from my childhood that has come back, which is recess. I have 3 kids working from home with me, 5th grader, 2nd grader, and a preschooler. And they'll walk in when it's recess time and remind me that we can take a break. And I tell you, just those short windows together remind us all of what's important here and the people that we love, and being purposeful about connecting deeply with them through this time, and making sure that endures. That's been a highlight for sure.
I love that. I love that. I think we should implement a recess at work once we all get back to work physically. Good. Thank you for that. Sonat, how about you? One resource that you'd recommend?
Well, mine is thousands of years old. I feel that what's been really helpful for me is celebrating Shabbat. I'm a Jew, and we have every week a moment that we get together with family and you drink wine and you take a break from the madness around us. Jews were doing this during the plague in the late 1400s. They were doing this when they were getting kicked out of countries. They were doing this in Auschwitz. Today is actually Holocaust Remembrance Day. And I feel that this has been something that has helped sustain at least my people through hell and back, and it still does. And it's a real break where we can just relax and think about family and connect with them. I've had lots of fun Zoom Shabbats, which is not super kosher, but super fun, and baking bread with my kids. And they know that Shabbat, we're not gonna be doing crazy work, because that's what we do all the time otherwise.
I love that. All of your suggestions and recommendations were all around reflection, right? And reflecting on family and what's important, and thoughts, and I don't know, I think that's absolutely wonderful. So thank you for that. I think that what I'm going to do now is I'm going to shift to the Q&A from some of the audience. So I'm going to throw my glasses on here and pull up. So there is a question that says, what do you think could be some of the risks of moving so quickly, and how do you go about managing those risks? So that's a good question. I think that's even, even as you start to, build your businesses in the beginning, and if you go too fast one direction, right, coming back around. So Lou, why don't I start with you?
I think for us, it's sharing those risks and the uncertainties with the customers that you're working with, so that they can go through the journey with you. That's the spirit of an MVP, or minimal viable product, of getting it out there and talking with customers about what it is, what it's not, and understanding what they need. And I think particularly in this crisis response, doing what we can, and being open about what is possible and what's not.
Yeah, sort of that iteration, right? There's a lot of risks, but if you continually actually continue to react to the feedback you get.
Sure.
Sonat, what do you think?
I mean, some of our risks are very, very clear and present. I mean, when you're working with caustic chemicals, you know there's serious risks involved. So for us, we had to put in lots of safety procedures at our distillery, different than what we've had before, because we're working with different raw materials. So, that came with the territory. I think also making sure that we are very open, as I think communication is key. A lot of people have not understood the fact that, we're following the World Health Organization's recommended formula, which is water thin. And people like to think about hand sanitizers as being very gel-like, but those are usually about 60% alcohol, whereas the WHO wants it to be 80% alcohol. So it's going to be more liquidy, less viscous. So, just making sure people are aware of why things are the way they are and why we're doing them, and making sure that we're doing them well and keeping people safe while we're doing them. So it's a constant thing that we have to focus on every day.
That's, yeah, the risk of the communication or lack of communication can really be problematic, right? So, so Garry, how about you? What do you think could be some of the risks of moving so quickly?
So there are several. I mean, one is like legal, what I would call legal / reputational risks, right? So we come to market with a certain product that we've been working on for X amount of time. We fully vetted all of the legal ramifications of our product and usage of it. When you put together new products in 3 weeks, you've not vetted every single thing, as well as you've not thought about every legal loophole about usage of your technology. So, as well as we have a lot of partners in the work that we're doing. So there's also legal agreements between the partners that have to also get executed within a small window of time in order for everything to go live. So, there was a lot of legal on my end and reading where we could be and just making sure that we were comfortable with those risks, talking to our legal team. But yeah, so those are some of the things that we started thinking about as both our reputation but also kind of like usage risks that might be out there.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. So let me go to the next question here from the audience. During times of recession and crisis, innovation is deprioritized at many companies, and the mindset moves to cost cutting. You all are amazing for leveraging your creativity and company resources to buck the trends. What are some of the ways, some ways companies and entrepreneurs can help that are industry agnostic? So less about, very specific industries, but, ways that they could actually help that could go across any and all industries. And Sonat, why don't I start with you?
Well, I feel that in any industry, there are ways to innovate all the time, in good times and in bad. And I feel that that is something that has been a method that we've found great success in implementing regardless of when or where, whether we do it in Europe or we do it here. So I feel that that is an important thing to be doing all the time. I mean, life is movement. So I think that one should always be moving forward.
Totally. And just to, if I can, Kristi, just to kind of piggyback off of that, I think one of the things that we've been thinking about is making sure that it's about speed to market, and so trying to show other entrepreneurs and startups that, hey, if we just did this, so can you. So that's like one thing of just like move up your delivery times, move up your shipment times, go 80-20 on a solution versus 100%, get things to market. But the other thing that I think cross-organizational is that what I've started is this thing called Rheaply Reflections, and every day someone on my team or myself will write on our LinkedIn just kind of something that we reflected about, and just to start a conversation with our network about things for the next post-COVID, right? In that, we've also been sharing what other small companies are doing that have nothing to do with us. And in some cases, they might be competitors in the traditional market to us. Just sharing what other companies are doing during this moment so that other people can see those things. So I think just everyone can move faster, one. And two, I think using your own communication channels to pump up what you're doing, but also what other people in the broader community are doing, are things that any business, I would say, probably can easily carbon copy.
For sure, for sure. Lou, I don't know if you have anything to add. Otherwise, I'll throw in the next question.
Good.
All right. So, So if you can put yourself in the shoes of your former selves, what recommendations would you give to any pre-revenue startup entrepreneur who are struggling in this time because everything has changed? So I think looking for advice, right? What recommendations would you give to any pre-revenue startup entrepreneur who's struggling? Actually, I'll sort of open this up to anyone, if there's anyone that wants to answer that.
I think what comes to mind for me is there are a lot of problems right now that need creative solutions across all aspects of the economy. And I think that presents real opportunities for entrepreneurs who have the heart and the desire to make an impact. I think it requires thinking in a fresh way about the problem that you're solving and the type of solutions to address those problems. But there is a need for innovation and entrepreneurship in the world now, more than ever.
Yeah,
totally.
Sure.
I would say that the number of problems have 1000x in the last 5 weeks for us to solve, and to Lou's point, and actually to Sonat's earlier point about what she did at the beginning of their business, and just trying to figure out how to do things that generated some revenue to do the things that the business actually wanted to do. I think in there is a meta solution for pre-revenue companies to figure out, even if this is your goal, what can you use your know-how and values to create right now that potentially could be valuable to 10 people, to 100 people. And I would start there, whether that's making T-shirts, whether that's, I don't know, delivering fruit and delivering, vegetables to someone's house. Like, I would think very creatively about how to monetize your time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Did you have something else you wanted to add, Sonat?
Sure. I mean, I feel that our world is changing rapidly, and the solutions that were popular in the past might not be in the future. And so I feel that now is a great time for people to do homework and to really become aware of what they need to do to make things happen.
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. Okay, so I'm going to squeeze. Do I have time for one more? I think I have time for one more. If more of the engineers, technical, marketing, and other personnel involved in R&D innovation are working from home, how will this affect time to market for your products and services? Any thoughts on that? And it is probably not critical right now, but maybe a few months from now it will be. So sort of curious, looking forward. And I'll open this up to anybody who wants to comment about that.
I can start. So we right now are purely technology software business. So we don't produce a product. So we don't technically have to be somewhere to produce. Although I will say, to the spirit of the question, that onboarding new employees is extraordinarily hard remote, we found out. And so I think we have to be conscious about our purported delivery times. We have to set people up for success, and knowing that they're not operating at 100% capacity. So I think it's just like understanding like your new remote work model and what you can get out of that, and how do you build a whole project plan or development plan around that reality. Those are some of the things that we've been thinking about, but I found it very hard to recruit, interview, and onboard new folks remotely, especially during these times.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything else, Lou or Sonat?
I think for physical product development, you're working from home. I think there are new tools and new ways of making things that you can still make progress. And so you can use additive manufacturing or 3D printing instead of making an injection mold. And it reduces the capital that's required up front, but still allows you to learn and experiment, innovate a much more capital efficient type of model. And so there are tools at our disposal that allow us to work efficiently and still get things done, even in this new type of working environment. And we've been inspired by seeing how some of our customers and some of our partners are doing that in unconventional ways, but still experimenting, still learning, still advancing the ball on new products they want to bring to market. And I think just circling back a few minutes ago to the question about companies are cutting costs through the recession, I actually think there's research that says, yes, you have to manage and contain your costs through the cycle, but the leaders on the other end of the cycle are those that are investing in innovation through the cycle and coming out stronger. That's something important, I think, for all of us to keep in mind.
Totally agree. I totally agree. And Sonat, I know you wanted to add something in there. Go ahead.
I mean, for my business, I mean, we're very old school. So we work with grain and we turn it into something and we get it out to people to enjoy. So I mean, that still needs to happen, with human beings. But I do think that this experience has forced us to innovate our back end a lot, and how we deal with technology and how our systems function and how we can make them function better. So I think that there's a lot there that people can work on too.
Well, I am going to wrap this up. I'm going to hand it over to Luke in a second, but I have to say that I am truly inspired by each and every one of you. I'm really, everything that you have done, you are true examples of survival through innovation. So I want to thank you all for being here, sharing your stories, and sharing your recommendation and advice. So thank you. I will turn it over to Luke.
Thank you, Kristi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kristi. Inspired, that's the word for sure. And thank you, Lou, Sonat, Garry, and Kristi again for leading the session, for all of your contributions, for everything that you're doing at your companies, for the city, for the community. Keep up the good work. Innovators certainly now are needed more than ever before. You and other innovators are the problem solvers that are going to get society through all of this. So we're very grateful to have you here in our Chicago innovation community. Just a couple closing comments. You know, at Chicago Innovation, we indeed are committed to supporting our local innovators and entrepreneurs, as we've always been, but now more than in the past, because indeed innovation is what's going to get all of us through this as a community and rising together. And our mantra of innovation is for everyone. We need that to be true and stronger today than in the past as well. So we're going to be doing many more virtual events, programs, other sorts of things to support the local community. You can certainly count on that. So stay tuned. We've got some great things in the pipeline that we'll be announcing over the coming weeks. Stay positive, stay innovative, and most importantly, stay well, stay healthy, take care of yourselves and each other. And we hope to see you again virtually very soon. Take care.